Yes, thank you. As already seen, that the British could not hold on to the Cape for the second time because the Dutch, despite losing it in 1795 after the collapse of the Deco, they kept desire to control the Cape once again. So this kept them with the feeling that one day we shall come back. No wonder they came back in 1802, 1803, after the collapse of the Amiens Treaty between the French and the British. The nullification of the Treaty of Amiens could have opened the way for the second Dutch administration at the Cape, which came into the one known as the BATAVIAN. The new Dutch admin was called the BATAVIAN Administration, and it was sworn in on Feb 1803. That's when it became operational. So the Dutch are back, but how are they back? They are back not in its pure form like the first, but in a mixture of both Dutch and a few British officials. Despite the British leaving, some remnants of the British administrators also worked in the In the new admin, which we are calling the BATAVIAN. These were liberals who had been influenced by the French revolutionaries. Yes, the French Revolution of 1789 brought with it very many new policies or new changes. So when the French had invaded the Holland, they influenced a lot of things, including freedoms, liberty, fraternity, for those ideas of liberty and fraternity. So it gave the Dutch a new thinking, as opposed to how they looked at issues in the first admin. So this was a reformed kind of administration, which was not having the concentrated Dutch ideas like they were. We are going to look at the Dutch admin this time becoming pro-people. And like in the first, where it was totally against the blacks. So this one was mixed with the new French ideas. You know, the French, in all their colonial, in their colonial policy, the French were pro-people. They were pro-people. They wanted to make it all inclusive in the sense that everybody took part in the administration of their issues. That's why we see when they came to Africa here, they applied the so-called the assimilation policy. Why? The assimilation comes from the French word assimiler, which means to make things look same. So that's why they were now trying to bring about these ideas of liberty, equality, and fraternity. So they wanted to look at all people equal, all people having same liberties and freedoms. So, meaning the BATAVIAN administration was more of that. It encompassed all those ideas of liberty, equality, and fraternity. That's why we are calling them liberals. They were not very much rigid, these BATAVIAN administrators. One might think that they were the best administrators, but why did it end in only 3 years? We shall also come to see that. In the 3 years, they had a lot of reforms. In the 3 years they ruled the Cape, they had a lot of reforms. Those reforms can be reflected in the laws. The laws which were rigid were now made a bit flexible. Freedom of worship was given to everybody, which was not the same in the first admin, and even education given to all. This was wonderful because these were only the preserves of the of the Dutch in the first admin. Laws were favoring the Dutch. Freedom of worship only to the Dutch, where the Dutch Reformed Church was monopolizing everything and ensuring that the Africans had been segregated in the strongest terms possible. So education now, we could see education for all, even the African children being educated in very good schools. So this was very good. That's why we are calling them liberals. That's why they were called what? Liberals. They were not more rigid like in the first what? In the first admin. Then the administration tried to make the Cape administration less conservative and a bit democratic. So this is the best government I can assure you. They are no longer conservative like they were in the first, and above all, they are giving democracy. Democracy where, when we define democracy, the best way of defining democracy is when everybody is given the capacity to take part in the affairs affecting their what? Their societies. So, democratic in the sense that they gave that kind of freedom for people to participate in the decision making of their own government. So that was a good government. That's why we're calling it less conservative. It was discarding those rigidities that were reflected in the what? In the first admin. Governor General Jan Jansen, that was the man appointed to take over this administration, the one we are calling the Batavian admin. That was Governor Jan Jansen, who was also helped by Commissioner Jacob Demis Abraham. These two administrators were at the helm of this Batavian admin, Jacob Demis Abraham and Jan Jansen. These were the two administrators who drove the Batavian admin to greater heights. The governor was the head of the admin, as seen. Jan Jansen was the governor. And what does that one mean? He was the one to give executive guidance, and of course to be followed by other administrators. The governor handled, he made laws, yes. Like I told you, he was the chief executioner, and he made laws that were governing the operation of this government. The governor also handled criminal and civil affairs, so you can see he was also chipping into the judiciary, because he handled criminal and at the same time civil affairs. You can see he was a complete administrator. This governor, Jan Jansen, who did not work alone, of course. He worked with Commissioner General Jacob Demis Abraham. So, handling criminal and civil affairs put him at the forefront of the decision making of this institution. Senior posts were reserved for the Batavians. Then this is now controversial. If you are democratic and less conservative, how come that senior posts are only reserved for the Batavians? So we can see that again, it is bringing about some kind of segregation in the civil service. Because if it was all inclusive, then let the Brits also take the senior posts and even other. So still, this was a preserve of the Batavians. The Brits, however, dominated in lower posts. You can see senior posts for the Batavians, lower posts only for the British. So this again did not make the Brits happy. But why get this kind of aggrandizement? Because the first admin was even worse. So the Brits would even thank the Batavian that they were included in the new admin. Local governments were reformed into districts. Yes, those original institutions were now were reformed to be ruled under districts, with a special ruler appointed for each and every district, as we shall see. Those special rulers, we shall see. Each district was given a leader called the Land Rost. Yes, the Brits in East Africa called them district commissioners. But in South Africa, they were not district commissioners or DCs. They were now called Land Rosts. A Land Rost was given to head a district. And of course, they were divided into smaller districts for easy management. So the role of the Land Rost, one, was to settle cases. Cases that happened in between the people, both the administrators and even the original settlers, the blacks. So the Land Rost was like a judge, and at the same time leading the district. He was the link between the government and the settlers, yes. We see the settlers also had their own grievances against government, who would come in to act as a link. It was the Land Rost or the district leader. However, 6 elders were appointed to help the Land Rost. Yes, why were 6 elders appointed to help the Land Rost in his administration? It was because the elders were chosen because of their age and experience. They knew a lot. That's why they appointed them. Men who had been given consideration because of their age and experience. So they appointed 6 of them to give guidance to the district leader or the Land Rost. Why? To ensure that the Land Rost does not act arbitrarily. In other words, cannot make decisions that we are going to be against the people and which will finally put the future of this government into jeopardy. Land Rost were also helped by the officials known as the Veldkanet. The Veldkanet, this one was the direct assistant, was the deputy of the Land Rost. So in the district, therefore, we have 2 people, the Land Rost and the Veldkanet. The Veldkanet performed similar duties. In fact, he was more or less similar to the Land Rost. So at the end of the day, we realized that he was almost appointed to act as the deputy. In case the Land Rost was not available, the Veldkanet would solve all issues that were related to the administration of this Batavian admin. So the Veldkanet was the same as, played the same roles like the Land Rost. Trade restrictions were removed, and all farmers now were able to sell their produce anyway, which was not the case in the first admin. So that's why we say it was a more democratic and less conservative admin. So the farmers given the ability to sell by removing these barriers to trade, and the people now became happy because trade was now moving smoothly. The Khoikhoi, who had been disturbed in the past, who had been considered irrelevant, who had even been hunted, by the way. They were being hunted as if they were animals. They were now given back their land, which was very, very good news in their in their ears. So it was like the people now, we are looking at a very good administration in place, and that was the Batavian or the second Dutch administration at the Cape. The Khoikhoi, after being given their land and after feeling happy, a lot was moving on. Slave labor was also disregarded. Slave labor was disregarded. It was this, and now with the disregarding of slave labor, it meant that the whites now thought of bringing their own labor to replace the black labor. Freedom of worship given to everybody. The blacks now realize that they can also pray and enjoy their spiritual needs everywhere they wanted. That was a blessing because it was not in the first. Then education was for all, which was a blessing once again. because in the first admin, education was just a preserve of the few, and that was the Dutch. New agricultural projects were put in place, which were intended to boost agricultural performance, and to make this one happen, they imported the merino sheep. This merino sheep was imported from Australia, all the way from Australia, and it was the best sheep and it could adapt to the conditions at the Cape. They were used to temperate regions, and of course the Cape was also giving this kind of environment for them. In all, therefore, as we wind up, as we conclude, this was a very good government which had come to effect new changes for the benefit of all at the Cape.